Hello, listeners. Hi, my name is Madhavi, and I'm so happy to have you on UppTalk. You have come to the right place if you want to learn about IT and do really cool things with your hands. We are not just another IT company when I say UppTalk. Think of us as your learning partner dedicated to helping you reach your full potential. We have top notch hands on courses to help you build your business, whether you are new to technology or want to move up in your current job. Let's look around this as our first step towards learning.
Coming to patterns. Patterns allow the user to extract various information from an entity without using a single line of code. This is basically the extract function that we had used. It is an option which helps you as an extract function, and you don't need to write any form of codes or define any variables or do all sorts of things because that's a feature which Datorama provides us with, which helps us identify the various buckets and classify them accordingly. Suppose you have this pattern over here, Toyota Highlander. From the above campaign name, the naming convention can be now divided into four attributes of car name, car category, promotion name, and site. Right. We can classify them into these buckets and take it forward. Let's go to data drama and let's see more about patterns and let's see how it works. What are patterns and where do you get patterns? Patterns are present in your I present in your connect and mix, and from there you go to harmonization setup, and from there you go to patterns. Right, as we discussed what is a pattern. Pattern is also used to bucket our data into several separate buckets that it's easy for us to. I refer to our harmonized dimensions and create them as well and segregate our data. Why is the need of patterns when we had calculated dimensions? Let's see when the situation comes whenever. Oh, also remember whenever you see an overlapping thing in a separate tool altogether, just think yourself that what is that feature that this option brings, which is an optimization over the earlier one. The earlier one may have had the feature, but then this option that is new, the new option that has come up, that is basically something which is that this is new and this is enhanced in some ways, maybe. Think of a situation whereby you have 50 data streams, and all these 50 data streams need to be classified. Let's consider this. Say simple, all these 50 data streams have respective media by keys, and you're not sure even that data. For some it comes from media buy, for some it comes from campaign. And somewhere it's the fourth position which gives me site name somewhere, at a second position that gives me site name somewhere. It gives me, like, there are three positions that give me side name, and then there are pattern. Then there are data sets whereby we have the same data site name coming from the campaign name, whereas for the other data sets it was coming from the media buy. Correct. Now think from the first thing from perspective of a calculated dimension which uses logical functions. Think for 100 data streams, how many Formulas you need to write. Formulas you need to write. First thing is you need to write formulas for this. For these data streams and how many formulas you need to write. If else, if else, if else, if else, if else, that you reach at a condition like this. You reach at a solution which is backed by your formulas. Now you have classified your 100 different campaigns. Correct. Now just think you have used all those calculated dimensions in your visualization. You know the rest is history forever and ever. Because anytime you want to change any filters, you want to toggle between any dates or anything, your Datorama crashes miserably. Your widgets crash. And sometimes what happens is by crashing and by it's huge, right, to calculate much on a single slide. The load time increases and sometimes the widgets fail, or sometimes waiting for a good amount of time it loads up, but that is not a very good customer experience. Even correct nothing. Always think from perspective of scalable. It is today you have two datasets. Maybe tomorrow you will have 200 is writing if else formulas in mapping or by calculated dimensions. At all scalable at all. We can do something about it. There comes patterns. Patterns tends to find a similar pattern in your data and it tries to classify data accordingly. When our data set comes in a certain format, what it does is it classifies it, but without any hindrance of codes that we don't see those type of redundancies when we are seeing the widgets and visualizations. Pattern has a pattern name. It has a source dimension. It has a filter. What are the source dimension? Source dimension is nothing but a dimension that you need to classify. But your pattern looks for a pattern in your data. If it is single type of, if your taxonomy is cool, what pattern does is it classifies it immediately. If your taxonomy is not cool, what it does is it will classify definitely. It is meant to classify, but it will classify everything or nothing. How? Everything or nothing. We will see. Any dimension that you want to classify for us yourself, you can do it. There are filters which you can use, like data source filters and data stream filters. You can write a pattern description too, to know that what kind of pattern it was. Now let's see. So separate data, which will be eventually data streams, which contain data, and which. How are the things different from one another? First dataset, which contains day placement ID, placement name. Placement name basically consists the publisher that you see in the first delimiter, publisher. Then we have something because it's country. And then we have, let's consider this to be country. This is country. We have US, all those. Then we have device. And then we have the payment type. And subsequently, we have the impression, clicks, and media. Correct. Over in this data set, we see that we get information of different types from the placement name. And placement name is basically entity over here from where we are getting our data coming to this data set. But we see that we get same type of information. We have PO, we have device, we have size, we have country, we have the publisher from different campaign keys and campaign names. What happened? We see that the two entities are different in different data sets, but they are throwing up with information which is almost common and which is important for us. And then let's look at the third data set. Over here, what we see is paid key and campaign name gives us the information. But over here, we see a difference in naming convention. In the last things, we have the payment type at the last. When we go to this data set, with that payment type has come to the first, then publisher, then country, then and then device. Three situations. The three data sets are unique in some ways. They are giving us information. But the first two data sets is giving us information from media. My is giving us information from campaign and is giving us information from Ken. But its naming convention is different. Correct. We have it with naming convention is different. Second, we are entity are different. Correct. In this kind scenario comes from hundreds and thousands data stream. Will you be going ahead and write formula for them? Will you be take formula? If you detect how much a form you need to write. Second is scalable. Think. Change it. You keep it. Impressions. Click me or we have Matt. For the other one, we have the data coming from campaign and it has campaign only. Day campaign, key campaign name, impression clicks and medium cost. And for the third data set that we have, there also we have campaign. We have mapped the campaigns. Now that we know that data is coming from the various data sets together, what we will do is we will go ahead and create a pattern for ourselves. From Connect and Mix, we go to Harmonization Center. From Harmonization Center, we go to Patterns. Now let's check how we create a pattern. We do an add new. what we do is we give a pattern name. Say suppose we give it as test_pattern. We select the dimension, what we need to. For the first dataset that we have, we want to classify it as media by name. It gives us all the types of media by names that are present in the workspace. Right. But I need one view of it. Right. Now think this is a training workspace. It doesn't have much of the options present. We have only two words and the other one. It doesn't have much of the data, but just try to think. Whatever I show you with one data stream or two data stream, just think we have multiplied by 100. Like if I show you 2 multiplied by 15, always try to think. You know the data from you're from the perspective of 100 data streams together. When you have 100 data streams together, just try to think how many media by names will you have for yourself, and when will you be going ahead and choosing from there. What do is you go to add filter, whereby you have two options of data sources and data streams. Go ahead and choose your data stream which is relevant. That was my media by data stream. If I select it over here, do a done. Now I have the entire set of. I had my placements names in this format, and I have it over here. Correct. What I can do is I can select one of these. This basically shows me the options, the various options available for me to classify my data when I choose this filter. And if I do an apply, data at each delimiter level gets classified into the various buckets. Can we select multiple media by line items? Can we select multiple media by line items? You select only one. You can select only one. Only. There is a pattern whenever your pattern aligns with all the other media by options in your dataset. You will have only one thing to select. Now there are two types, or the other ones. Right. If we create one pattern by selecting one of the media by names, then automatically, which applies to all the other media by names, does. Or do we need to? It does. There are two types of setups. One is a manual setup and one is automated setup. If you go ahead and check your manual, what you see is this entire thing has come in. Now what you need to do is you need to add a position. It shows a legal pattern because we haven't defined anything, but you need to go on and add this as a manual setup, and you need to do this. That is something which is a very hectic task. What we will do is we won't be doing that. What we do is we choose. We have it all classified. And we see that our data is structure compliant. There is a toggle box above, which will tell you like, if your data is not structure compliant, then I'll show you what happens. when it is not structure compliant. Suppose all these media voice that come in, they come in different shapes and different delimited values. Some maybe, 5 words long. Some contains only 2 information on and forth. A pattern is not recommended at that point of time, but then you can create multiple patterns. You can toggle, you know, switch this off, that it takes everything under delimiters. I'll show you how it works. Let's see this first. Over here, we know that, my is delimited by first is my columns, came it, whatever is there. Second is the delimiters. Over here, I and uniform. Set of delimiters. It's visible, right? It's not. It's not. Pretty small. I guess it is better. It is all separated by underscores, right? When it is separated by underscores, what we do is over here, after one position, there is a small box which tells us how is your data in position 1 and 2 delimited. We had underscores. Suppose tomorrow you get a data with the first delimiter is underscore and the second delimiter is a hyphen. Third delimiter is again. Third delimiter is a, and for the delimiter is a underscore again. What you can do is, but gives you this flexibility to define delimiter is in various boxes. So it's a slash. And then after that, suppose it hyphen. And then if it is a, if your data is structured like that, you can go ahead and change these delimiters in here. Well, and what it will help, it will help you to classify your data with whatever the delimiter comes in these. The third is you can give names for this. Don't think these names, don't consider these names because these names coming because I use these names. You won't be, whenever you're creating a new pattern, you won't be getting any names over here. Just try to. And also remember, once you have delimited any of these columns in the individual columns become a separate dimension, correct? You put this, suppose if you want these to be the separate harmonized dimensions to be used for your visualization, you need to always maintain uniform convention. What I tend to follow, naming convention, which has a pattern in the bracket because I'm extracted them from patterns. What happens is if you create country dimension, it becomes very difficult when you are trying to bring it for your wish because there is a country that comes from the native source. There is a country that comes from your calculated dimension and there is that comes from your pattern. Will it be a problem? Insert it definitive. Will it? Problem is is in you need to act eyes and you to have it yourself to know tomorrow. There are 8 to 9 column workspace with more party harmonize demand correct rather than do a naming convention from the start. And naming convention is a very important fact in data analytics and reporting, because once you have named your data correctly tomorrow, if anything goes for, you know, where to find your data, by what name, and how to use it, right? I tend to create these dimensions based on the harmonization I'm using, and I put them in brackets. You can go ahead and name it as any what you want. I have named it as publisher. You can go ahead and name it as whatever for publisher, publisher, and you can name it as part extract button. The extract button basically helps me with extracting the data, and I want to extract as and this as what will happen will get extracted. Won't be the other day I was telling to someone violent pattern. It's not necessary that you have class, you have position as harmonized dimension. You the extract happening as oh, you cannot go ahead and delete it off, because what happens is structure define defect hampered toggle home extracted that's that that's great disk pattern buff patterns old pattern pattern going campaign part the pattern there understand purpose before any understand purpose right classify right classify delimit med set content dimension placement here classify here position div mute understand class it, compare, cause, sec, data, camp, data, things, comic, can, and correct. Nud, pattern, field, campaign, pattern, op, select, ads, what, set, class, component, these components, colon, common, col, comment, fact, together, accordingly, run, the country, classify, camp, campaign, strip, with, name, convention, because, separate, scenario, comic, 3, comic, uh, didn't, pattern, would, work, similar, comic, different, creatine, separate, stream, with, run, because, separating, mid, where, consider, dimension, with, basket, not, placement, placement, pattern, placement, comb, camp, part, harmonize, mention, dimension, pattern, pattern, camp, pattern, reiterate, tomorrow, harmonized, dimensions, create, dream, don't, different, because, cannot, sink, column, correct, that, it, mid, control, dimension, to, let, pattern, pattern, comic, net, take, street, feed, pattern, think, comic, what's, difference, difference, that, their, convention, difference, correct, position, pattern, payment, right, part, identifying, com, fact, different, entities, different, stream, you know, extract, harmonize, dimension, separate, delimit, somewhere, somewhere, shouldn't, because that create pattern delimit wherever ma- a country dimension successfully create pattern my uh, the number position pattern because my mid option position classified harmonized dimension previously and remember mm, session uh, harmonized dimension because pattern made harmonized dimension remember don't remember that treat these patterns harmonized dimension mid pattern double click pattern so dimension harmonized dimension ma pattern basically commit place commit position coming first position campaign pattern second position campaign pattern commit beat make because classified properly check classification vision pattern con pattern pattern dimension these become separate column previously the comic delimited fact me pen the individual dimensions individual dimension uh, uh, whatever option yourself went. Set. Check yourselves. Think. Walk. Right. Think. Become. Individual. Dimension. Individual. Things. Basically. Basically. Set. That's a talking situation. Right. Where the structured comply. Happen. Structure. Comply. Structure. Compile. Padded. Doesn't. Uh, things happen. Mid. There. Campaign. Get it. Classified. Because structure. Compliant. Nothing. Get it. Position. Switch. Structure. Compile. Op. Happy. Mid. Strip. Help. Happy. Position. Basically. Classify. Position. There. Problems. Because underscore. Comic. Somewhere. Or things. Some. Something. Structured. Complete. Something. With. Recommended. Rather. Let. Classification. Classification. Let. Classification. Pattern. Together. Resolve. The problems. Generally. Generally. Taxonomy. Should. Correct. Generally. Taxonomy. Governance. Aid. Taxonomy. Define. Clients. Tagging. Working. Generate. Campaign. Generating. Wait. Campaign. Constructions. Should. Something. Camp. 10. Naming. Convention. Hap. Transitional. Hap. Where. Word. With. Something. Or person. One. Fourth. Position. Hap. And classification. Which basically holding pat, reserve T situation, compliant, doesn't, tax, complet, right? You know, screwed out. Oh, it, something happened. You know, place. You know, suppose campaign, mid, classify, or create separate. You know, separate patterns or self identify. Cheap, want, have, structure, compliant, talk. You know, class, very, position, campaign, play with patterns. With towards. Please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel. For more information, contact us sales at therightuptalk.com.